Today, I will make sure you'll use to and for correctly in your English. So, if you're looking to avoid mistakes that make you sound like an English language learner, or you are looking for high scores in your IELTS exam, both written and spoken, this is the video for you. There are over 100 prepositions in English. Rather than learn a list of 100 prepositions, I will focus on the most commonly used preposition. That means you will spend your precious time focused on learning and practicing with the top 2, 5 or 10 words, idioms and phrases. The vocabulary you will definitely need. Today, that means we will focus on 2 simple prepositions which are used all the time. Prepositions that people who speak English as a second language can find difficult to understand and use correctly. After watching this ESL English grammar video, you will know how to use the prepositions to and for correctly. What is a preposition? Well, a preposition is typically a word that shows a relationship between 2 or more people, things, or places. Most prepositions are single words. However, they can be pairs or even group of words. Even if you think you've got a great understanding of using to and for prepositions, I recommend you watch this video. There are a few questions towards the end of the video so you can test yourself and prove you've got these tricky prepositions under control. Do you have problems knowing when to use to and when to use for in English? It's often with these really simple little words that English language learners have difficulties. So, how about today we talk when to use to and when to use for. And then we'll do a test, a quiz at the end so you can check how you do, what you've learned. Hello, I'm Nelson and you are watching English with Nelson. I will help you to speak English fluently. All you have to do is watch. To and for are prepositions. The trick is how to use them. So these little words are prepositions to and for. Little words that go in front of nouns that you learn right at the start of your English language learning. But don't be misled by shortness of these words. It doesn't mean that using them correctly is easy. Native speakers will hear your mistake with this kind of words, but they probably won't tell you because they'll understand what you mean. But you want to get it right, don't you? Let's have a look at the differences to and for, and let's have a look at where either will be correct, but where they have a different meaning. How to use the preposition to. So first of all, to. Well, to always appears with the infinitive part of the verb. By that I mean to go to buy, to sail, to sing. It's not really a preposition here, but it is a place that we always use to. She decided to have lessons in ballroom dancing. To have. Or he made a New Year's resolution to exercise more often. To exercise. I have to go to a meeting next week. To go. So, all those are infinitives and they always have to. We also use to show a purpose, a reason for something. I'm going to town to buy some shoes. I'm heating up some oil to fry my eggs. So, notice, this always goes with a verb, to buy, to fry. We also use to when we are talking about movement from one place to another. So, I'm driving from Oxford to Manchester tomorrow. Do you want to come to my house tomorrow? Or, we also use it when something changes from one thing to another. If it's a change happening, you might say the traffic lights changed from green to red. You might also use to when you are talking about distance. How far is it to Manchester? Oh, it's 200 miles from here to Manchester. And not just physical distance. You can also use to show distance in time. The supermarket is open from today 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's 3 hours to the start of the show. That means from now until the start of the show is 3 hours. So we use to when you're saying from one time to another time. From 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. or from now until a time in the future. It's 3 hours to the start of the show. Often you use to with limits. So you might say it's 4 days now to the deadline. Or you might say she went to the edge of the football pitch. To the edge. Or you might say I watched the film to the end. So limits and deadlines. Okay, so those are some of the main ways in which we use to. I can't do all of them, but let's deal with the most common ones. Do you want a recap? Recap on how to use the prepositions to. Well, first, to is used with the infinitive I want to sit down, to sit. I like to eat fish, to eat. We use to show purpose. I cleaned the floor, to show I wanted to help. I went to the shop to buy eggs. We use to for physical distance. I traveled to Manchester, and also distance in time. It's 5 days to the start of our holiday. Or to can be used to talk about a limit, an endpoint. We traveled to the border with Scotland. What about for? How to use the preposition for? Well, we can use for to show effect on something. Eating salad is good for your health. Eating sugar is bad for your teeth. And we use for to show a duration of time, a period of time. In a slightly different way, how to use to for time. I might say, have been doing adept English for 5 years now. Or, I waited for 20 minutes while my neighbor was trying to start her car. You can also use it in the future. I will exercise for an hour today. So, yes, you can talk about time with both to and for. And it just takes practice to get it right. So the important difference, if you are talking about a number of minutes or hours, is usually for 5 hours. If you are naming specific points in time or a range in time, it's to, from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. We also use for to show purpose. That pan is for frying eggs. I've got out that jacket and scarf for my work. Also to show purpose, well, yes it is, but slightly differently. Here are some sentences to help you tell the difference. I use that pan to fry my eggs. So that's to. I use that pan for eggs. I use that pan for frying eggs. So the first one, I use that pan to fry eggs. If you are showing purpose with to. To needs to be followed by a verb. But if you express purpose with a noun, you'll need for. I use that pan for eggs. But in English, you can also make verbs into a noun. So we take a verb like to fry and we make a noun out of it. Frying. The frying of the eggs took 2 minutes. So in that last example, I used that pan for frying eggs. This one is for because the word frying is a noun or it's actually called a gerund. But it's a part of a verb that behaves more like a noun. I use that pan to fry my eggs. Or I use that pan for eggs. I use that pan for frying eggs. So generally, to with a verb and for with a noun. Even if you just remember that, this video will have really helped you. But one of the main uses of for is when we are acting on someone else's behalf. We are doing something to help the other person. I'm going to raise money for homeless kittens. I'm going to do the cooking for my mom. I've got my mom in mind and I'm doing it for her. So what about a little recap on for? So we use it to talk about effect. Eating vegetables is good for you. We use it if we're talking about a duration of time. For 3 hours, for 5 days, for 20 minutes. We use it to show purpose. But remember, if it's a straight verb, it's to. But if it's a noun or a gerund, it's for. And we use for when we are helping out, acting on behalf of the other person, doing something for them. I've made a cup of tea for you. I've done the washing up for you. Sentences where to or for changes meaning. Okay, so what about some sentences where you can use either but if changes the meaning depending upon which one you use. I took a present to my son. That means I took a gift to where my son was and I gave it to him. But if I say I took a present to my son, that will mean that I took a present on behalf to give to someone else from my son. Perhaps it was for his teacher. I made a phone call to my daughter. That means I called my daughter on the phone and I had a conversation with her. But if I say I made a phone call for my daughter, that means I called someone else for her on her behalf. Maybe she didn't want to make the phone call herself. Maybe I had to phone her work to tell them she was sick. Perhaps. The point is, whether you use to or for here determines the meaning. To whom. So it's quite important. Gerund again. That noun made from a verb. You could equally well say that pan is used for onions. Either way, it's for because you are using it with a noun. What a lot there is to say about these tiny little words in English. But this is something that people find difficult. And it's been quite hard work explaining it, even if it is complicated. So you can do it too. You just need to practice. So watch this video a number of times until it makes sense and you can remember the different uses of to and for. Watch this video on the use of prepositions and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like, comment and share. Goodbye. Enough for now. Have a lovely day. Speak to you again soon. Goodbye.